Hey, Homeworthy. I'm Demanti. Welcome to my home in Georgia. Come on in, I'll show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
My name is Demanti O'Bryant. I'm a fashion model agent, and welcome to my home in Atlanta, Georgia. I have been living in this home for a little over 5 years. I'm a first-time homeowner. It was probably my fourth house that I viewed. Just completely white walls. Everything was stripped to its bare basics. I kept everything except for changing the colors of the walls for the most part. But I knew with the split level, single family style home, there's arches in the front hallway that this would be the right place to start building my museum out. I was inspired by a trip to the Louvre in 2019. So that got my ideas churning about how I wanted my home to be laid out. So I think we're touring about 7 rooms in the home, and each room has its own different feeling and theme. So based on the colors, based on the elements within the art, just laid out a different feel for each room. Nothing feels the same. That's the only way I maintain sanity in homes. I have to have colors and I have to have movement and narrative going on, so I'm never bored. Welcome to my living room. Follow me. The living room space is meant to bring on Italian, French, little old English feel to it. This is probably the most on trend with when I was inspired by the Louvre. So the Louis XIV section, I like the couches and the beds. So these are usually where I do my night reading. These are antique sets. Actually, all the furniture in the home is secondhand antiques. We will start over here. Above, we have a 19th century painting of the Black saint called Saint Antonio. He's from Peru. So that one's a 19th century painting. And then below it, we have a sculpture by Austin Brantley. He's out of Detroit, Michigan. He's actually only 30 years old. He's been sculpting for about 10 to 11 years. And that was the first from his series for my coarseness. Below that, we have 2 urns, and then we have a sculpture by Jamie Harris. So she did a style of Wedgwoods in the manner of if Black people could actually practice that form of trade during the days that they were popularized. So she inscribed the back and she sculpted a face in the front. So originally when I was moving into the home, I didn't know what I wanted for the walls. Of course, if I was looking at Baroque and French, thinking of if I wanted wallpaper, I just decided to do a rich chocolate brown for this room so the golds would pop off. Luckily, I chose that now that there's so much art on the walls, I feel like it would combat with the wallpaper aesthetic that I was originally planning. So I went with a dark brown for this. Again, my coffee table is just like all the other furniture throughout the home. It's secondhand. I got it off of OfferUp. I think they're let go now. And it is the table that belonged to someone's mother, and it was in their family for 60 years. I like the 2 tiers of it. It's suspended somehow by like these little brackets. And the books along it is just different art books and fashion books. The iconic Black issue of Italian Vogue, Zanelli Maholi, which is an amazing multimedia artist, but photography is what they're most known for. Simone Leigh, which represented us in the Venice Biennale 2 years ago. And then a few other assorted books of artists that are favorites of mine. And we'll take a look into this cabinet, which just holds a little bit of, I wouldn't call them knickknacks, but smaller items. The mirrors in the back, these are actually 800-year-old mirrors. They're from Khmer, which is modern day Cambodia. And the sculptures in front of them, I think of them as my mages, and the mirrors are the portals they travel through. I liked how they patinated over time and softened, because one of them actually cracked during shipment and I had to realize bronze actually becomes softer over time. This book down here is Le Modèle Noir. It's an exhibition that happened in France, and it was representation of Black people throughout history from the 1500s up until now. So there were nuns, knights, and it really just opened my mind to what we were in society aside from enslaved in the institutional sense, in the museum sense, because a lot of times we didn't see that growing up, and it's fortunately become a change where we're seeing a lot more representation in the museum spaces. I have two horses opposite side of the cabinet. These are antique horses from Thailand. Also, I think I found them on OfferUp, and an older couple got them as antiques when they had them, and then for some reason didn't need them anymore. I thought with the gold kind of works with the cabinet. So everything is unintentional in a way. They find their ways into their proper places. I love the cracks and the chipping of them. I'm not a restore person. I like to see the age on things. I like to see how the paint is starting to discolor. So I really enjoy them on opposite sides of these. So this painting is actually the second oldest in the home. It is 19th century, and I actually acquired it through an estate sale, an estate auction actually. A former antiques dealer, he passed, and he went back and forth between Europe and LA to supply for his clients. And this is the largest rendering of a Black person I saw at the time. This one's entitled Egyptia. Came with the frame already. I flew to California to get it, and yeah, that red and the clouds really brought a unexpected flow and color pop into this room. So it's not just brown and gold. There's now reds and greens. So it's also playing on the complementary colors, adding a little bit more depth. So the painting behind me is actually me. It was actually done on that couch we just passed, and it was done by Ruth Hardy. She actually painted it when she was only 18 years old. So I found her on Instagram. I saw her style, which was more contemporary than what I wanted at the time, but I saw the way that she could render skin and lighting. I set up a self-timed camera, did the photo, sent her the reference, and she was able to capture this beautifully. And as you can see, there's one of those 800-year-old mirrors up there, but there's also different things throughout the home incorporated into this painting. So across from this 19th century painting of Saint Martin from Peru, we have this smaller painting by Andre Firmiano from Brazil, and it's called The Security. So it's about the museum security guard not seeing himself reflected in the institutions, yet he's protecting and guarding all the paintings of these romantic scenes of Europeans, but only time he sees himself reflected is in chains. So you'll see in the small corner, there's a woman, a brown woman in chains. And Brazil shares a very similar history to America when it comes to the slave trade. What I want people to feel when they walk into my home is a grand welcoming, because that's how I laid it out for me. So there'll be pieces kind of lining the staircase. There'll be objects on either side of you, just to feel like a very grand welcome. It'll probably be also just, how did you fit all of this in a 2,000 square foot 1950s, 60s home? I really want it to feel like a little mini kingdom in a way. Welcome to my entryway. So as soon as you walk through the home, this is what you're first greeted by. This from the door to the kitchen, dining room. But this space I wanted to feel more Roman, Greek. So we have the archways on this side, but then on this side we have some things that kind of offset it. These headless sculptures and these other ones that definitely ground the point home that this is Greek Roman. But then we have things that kind of play off of the fact that this is also a Black person's home. So we have this photo by Delphine Diallo, and the mask that she's wearing is made by Joanne Petit Frere. And this was acquired for a Haitian relief fund. And just below it, we have the second oldest Moor in the home. This is 1920s. The first one I actually bought though, and it was rescued from somebody's garage. My dad got it back to working condition, and he's been here ever since. And then opposite of this is actually just a mannequin. I've had this mannequin probably since high school, and now I've just adorned it with different jewelry from cultures. So North Africa, East Africa, this is Indian. The belt, which is actually in the painting of me, is a Moroccan, Ethiopian, and then this is Arab. So you'll notice throughout the home, starting here, that some of the lamps don't have lampshades. I purposely took them off because one took up my vantage point space. It didn't allow the items to breathe as much. And also, I don't usually use overhead lighting in the home. So sometimes just having them as is brings more light, but also it saves me space. So the sculpture above the door, I actually got from a thrift store. I believe it's Dionysus, but it also reminded me of the Versace head. More so just to keep that point home that this is a Greek Roman space, and then it'll carry you into the kitchen space. So actually it works a little bit with the different fruits and vegetables incorporated on the head. So when you first walk in the home and you close the door, you'll notice there are actual pictures on the back. So I've utilized most of the doors in the home. To me, they're just extensions of walls. So the above piece is a etching from a Brazilian artist named Nia. And I came across her at a market on Saturday. And so it's got gold leaf incorporated throughout, etching and pastel. And below is a collage by Willie Torbert. So this small piece, he hand collaged, and then I really like the velvet matting, which almost matches the door, and then these old style frames. So my personal style, especially when it comes to home decor, I'm very much antique, old soul style. So a lot of my things in my main home are probably reminiscent of something at least from the 1970s or later. Now that I've collected art, I have contemporary pieces mixed in without losing the feel of what was already predetermined. And now let's go to my dining area. Welcome to my dining area. So this space really didn't have a theme, more so I wanted to bring color into it because a lot of the rooms feel a little bit drab on purpose because that's what I particularly like. So we'll start at the dining table. Surrounding it, by the way, nobody dines here, but surrounding it, we have a few pieces, these chokwe masks, but in the center, this is actually butter jade sculpture from the Shona people of Zimbabwe. So this little lady is about 200 pounds almost. Everything sculpted by hand, and the darker greens are a different algae incorporated throughout this stone that they retrieve from water. And above the sculpture, we have a painting by Lorena Phineas. She is a Haitian Canadian artist now based in New York. And this one's called Myth du Baptême. And I really like how the flow of it feels very storybook-like. It's just her relearning and re-examining of her upbringing, her wanting to tap back into what her West African roots were before the moving into Canada and the learning of westernized culture. We will now go to the plate right above. So this plate is by Jamie Harris. She also did the urn in the living room, and she did this style also in the Wedgwoods. It says, "Skin once bartered and battered, no longer shattered. She found herself and saw life mattered." So this is obviously about the enslavement of Black people, and then now that we are coming out of this, seeing our worth. And below it was actually a painting that I acquired in Paris, and it's from 1922. So I actually eat at my stove. So I make the food at the stove, I eat at the stove. I have a large island and all of these things in the house, but I literally just put sculptures on the island. I don't really host dinner parties or anything, mainly because I don't want anything broken. So I eat right where I cook my food. So one of my recent pieces to join is the sculpture that I actually found in Mozambique. I looked through at least 1,000 wooden sculptures while there. These are by the Makonde people, and each one is different. They have unusual style, almost surreal in their approach. So This one, I looked at all the angles and how they really, it's abstract, it's fashion. I call her Princess Grotesque, but I love her, and she's one of my newest pieces to join the home, so she just hangs out right there. And on this side, we have my desk that I also do not use, but everything is just kind of meant to set the scene. Above it, we have a tapestry by Lila Deva, and she's out of Brazil. So she had a dream, woke up, and just decided to paint it on a large scale. And I love these copper and brass elements as well as pearl elements incorporated throughout it. On the table, this piece is where I hide my junk mail, but I actually bought it in Belgium. It's an old cookie tray, old cookie box. On the opposite side of my desk, we have some antique chairs. This one is on caster wheels. I love the engraving. I really enjoy how they've done the shape, almost like the tops of castles or mosques. And I love the engraving that they've also done in this. It's a very old velvet. I haven't changed it, so you can see that it's starting to fade. Well, way past starting to fade, but I really enjoy seeing how long a piece has lived. In this corner space, above this piece, which is by a Brazilian tribe, we have this piece by Scheherazade Tharard. It's called Nocturne. I really like the muted colors, the mystery behind it. Where are we going with this person in the forest? So I put it opposite of the front door, so it just feels like you can continue right into the piece. And opposite of that, we have a piece by Sky Solange. They're out of Zimbabwe, and I acquired this through Guns N' Rain Gallery. I like the different textures that he incorporated in the coat. I actually bought the piece because I wanted the coat. So I really enjoy this one, so I gave it prime real estate in the dining room. Briefly, I'll speak about this piece, which is actually one of the first pieces of art I actually ever bought. I came across this artist at a Juneteenth festival. I went on their Instagram, saw this piece, which is actually one of their class projects, and I really enjoyed the meshing of cultures. It's in a Japanese Yakuza style, like how they have the tattoos on their backs. He put an African narrative, so it's a warrior that appears to be Zulu, fighting a lion and a snake, and the piece above it is Frank Zarate. There's 10 more pieces by him in the collection, so we'll talk about a few of his pieces in some of the other rooms. And before we head into the hallway, I'll just highlight this one piece. This is a helmet from Togo. So it's antelope horns and basket weave, and it's got cowrie shells in it. I actually went to school for mechanical engineering, but I've always had art in my upbringing. I just set it aside when I went to college. But then also while I was in college, I was finding students to do the fashion shows that I would produce on campus. And then it evolved into me becoming a model scout and a mother agent. So after graduating in South Carolina, I moved to New York for a few years and then moved to Atlanta, where now I'm gonna be permanent. So it was pretty much from the get-go. Upon graduation, just went for this, and I've been doing this for a little over 11 years now. Welcome to my hallway. So this hallway leads into the guest rooms as well as my bedroom. And it's supposed to be a conversation between ancestral and extraterrestrial beings. So you'll see opposite on each side. It's almost someone's on this side talking, and the pieces are bouncing off of one another with the themes and the communication. The pieces right here that align this wall, I actually found on eBay. They're chrome African masks. I'm not sure if they're the only ones, but they're the only ones I've ever seen. So they did 3 different tribes and completely chrome. One's fell off the wall before and they're sturdy. This is how kind of the theme started. And then I used silvers, planetary orbs to kind of bring that point across. This piece is by Chanel Clark. He's an Atlanta-based artist, and this is from his Sun Goddess series. I put above it a Songye mask, which also has that moon-like feel. So I'm using futuristic as well as traditional African qualities to like mesh them together. We'll talk about a few of these pieces on the way down, but this piece is a charcoal by Gustavo Nazareno. He's out of Brazil, one of my favorite Brazilian artists, actually one of my favorite artists ever, and one of the reasons I actually went to Brazil, fell in love. I've been to Brazil, I think 4 times now. So in part due to Gustavo. This piece is a Cuban artist that I came across. Actually tassels from Egypt. So I rode a camel in Egypt through the pyramids, and they were wearing these tassel decor. When I was in a market, I found these and I thought they would be good for an entryway. Opposite this is also some themes to kind of drive that point home about extraterrestrial. This one feels like a planet leaving, well, a UFO leaving a planet. And down here we'll actually see a fashion alien with a cow getting zapped up into a UFO in the background. So yeah, it's a few different things to bounce off that idea. We are gonna come up here. So funny thing, I made this Sphinx out of just putting an African mask on a lion. I love the lion, but he was smiling and it felt too cutesy for what I was going for. I put this Igbo maiden mask on the lion to make it a Sphinx, and now it just has such a strong presence here. I personally feel that I will be here my whole entire life if there are no unforeseen circumstances. So I knew that this was the right home. I wasn't like, oh, I need to, sell to then upgrade or anything. I really do enjoy this. I can't even imagine this space laid out the same anywhere else. So I do think the soul of the home are the experiences that you incorporate throughout your home. And now we're going to head into my bedroom. And welcome to my bedroom. So the theme of this bedroom is meant to be more Asian feeling. I grew up in the 90s, so Asian culture was a big part of my upbringing, from anime to video games to watching Crouch the Tiger, Hidden Dragon, all of those things. I really felt that that was a huge part of my life, so I wanted to do my bedroom for that theme. I chose to use the green because I didn't want to be on the nose with most people, what they would associate with an Asian feeling room, like a red of some sort. So I wanted green to bounce the golds, the reds off of. Silvers then became incorporated within the room, and it works. At first I was like, how do silvers and golds play together? But it actually works in this space. So we're gonna start on this side. This piece is an antique theater costume from China. I got it in Beijing. I sometimes display the clothing as art pieces too. I actually see them as art pieces, so they hang right alongside with paintings. And it's really the intricate details and the gold threading that I love in this one. I have a few of them actually. And above this armoire dresser, we have a piece by Frank Zarate. I mentioned that he has 10 pieces in the home. This is the first piece I bought from him, and it is at least 100 faces he drew within the coat. I actually saw him working on the piece on Instagram, and it was sold before it was even done. I'm like, it's coming with me. The pink just grabs you as soon as you walk in. At first, I'm like, pink, does that really go with the theme? But I feel like with almost a kimono, very Andre Leon Talley, which is a huge inspiration to me, I feel that it flows well. And if you look very closely, he's talking to that flower, so the flower has a face. And I really enjoy this artist's work. There are 2 artists in the collection that have the most pieces, and Frank is one of them. Below it, on this mantle, we have a Buddhist crown. It is carved out of wood, and there's a rock crystal at the top. So you see the different Buddhas and their lotus flowers, and that was acquired through auction as well. I used to be much more crazy with auction sites. Once I started running out of space, I have specific keywords that if an auction has an artist that I've been looking for, or a tribe that I do not already have within the collection, it'll come to my email and then I'll participate. I've pulled back a lot more for like space-wise sake, but I would say up until this year, well, even this year, I would say I spend roughly an hour to 2 hours a week on the auctions. Sometimes I just like to watch to see what people put value behind. They might buy silver spoons for $2,000. Like, it's not that I want the silver spoons, but sometimes just seeing like how people appreciate things is intriguing. and also it inspires me. We will talk about the bedspread, which I actually got from Facebook Marketplace. It's from Afghanistan. I don't sleep on it. I just specifically use it for display purposes. I sleep pretty average aside from when I have people over. I pull this out. I love that with the turbans and with the fans, it kind of brings some other things within the home, within this space actually, to communicate, which brings me to this little guy right here. So he looks kind of like these guys with the turbans holding the fan. This is a bronze Moor I found in Brazil, and I just gave him one of these little feather duster things that I bought at Michael's. And above it is a piece by Ntabi-san Kikana. She's out of South Africa, Johannesburg, and I really like the softness, the mood of this feel, and bringing all those colors together in one piece also helps to bring the different colors throughout the room into making sense. So this is an antique Thai sculpture that I found in California and just had shipped over here. And I named him Mansour Sassy Pants. He guards the wardrobe. So because he's so old, he couldn't hold the weight of his sword anymore. So I gave him a fan that I actually got in Senegal. I love the bone inlay eyes. I love that the cracks come right where the eye is. So I really enjoyed this one. So when I went to Thailand, I actually didn't have to buy something so large because I found it in America, which is always great. And the closet that he is aside from just holds all of my cultural garments. So there's a lot of jalabas from Morocco. There's there's a Turkmenistan piece, and yeah, all of the pieces that I really treasure and that I want to keep an eye on, because I keep the closets closed, but I'm like, I want to know what's going on in here. No moths or something. I want to keep that like pristine. So I really enjoy these ones, and I wear them to some of the art shows I go to just because they are extravagant. Yes, this is my wardrobe that I don't wear every day, but for special occasions. This is an antique that I actually got from Salvation Army. Again, I love the faded red velvet on it. Also has caster wheels. So I don't sit on it often, but got some guys hanging out. This guy, which is Indonesian, well, this one's Indonesian, this one's Thai, and then Pikachu I got in Japan at the Pokemon Center. I love him, and I actually went to my first kabuki show in Japan, and so I like that this was like specifically in Tokyo. This piece right here is the oldest Moor in the home. She's 18th century, and she's wooden, polychrome painted, and she is Venetian. I acquired her through auction. I see Moors every now and then, but this one was really special to me because it was holding a flower. I've never seen a Moor done in that manner, so I was like, I have to have her. And I gave her the necklace. So some of the pieces in my home, they're wearing jewelry. They didn't come with the jewelry. I just kind of decked them out a little bit, a welcome gift, even though I do borrow it from time to time. I do take down some things from when I thrifted to make way for some of the contemporary art that I buy from time to time. But when a piece has found its home, it's found its home. I really just want everything to have a little breathing space. So when I do a salon style wall like you'll see in the hallways, there'll be spaces in between so I can still enjoy the pieces. But I still spot small amounts of wall space that I can use, and I've even hung some pieces on doors. I am definitely a maximalist. I don't even know if there's anyone more maximal than me. Minimalism, again, I would personally get bored. So I need to see what I feel is a cinematic moment, what I've always enjoyed from childhood, whether it be amusement parks, circuses, going to the movies. There's certain moments in these things, from seeing the sounds, maybe the animatronics or what have you, the CGI, it really just plants a seed in your mind and you really don't forget those moments. So I maximize everything, including life. And now I'll take you to my den. Come with me. Welcome to my fantasy folklore room. So this room started off as a guest bedroom. There's no bed here, really no guests. So I used this to really pump up my imagination. So I incorporated different folk tales, traditions throughout the Caribbean, Latin America, Africa into this space. It started off as a topsy-turvy-ish fantasy circus, and then it evolved into this. So we'll see some clowns incorporated throughout and other things. This middle piece is by Lorena Phineas, the Haitian Canadian artist. So she did a series celebrating women in Haitian's culture. And this is Madame Cecile Fatiman. She's a voodoo priestess that helped free Haiti from slavery. And I've used this to kind of extend the scene. We just have a few different items like Yare mask and a Yombe mask, really to just extend the scene. And the little boy down here I found in Cote d'Ivoire. And again, I looked through many sculptures and then had to decide which one felt right for me. And yeah, so he came with me on the plane. I wrapped it. So like when you go to the plane, they have these wrapping stations. So they wrapped him really well, and he went underneath the plane and came with me. They had larger ones, but I didn't want to test my luck this time. So I went with the little guy. So this column, the complete thought of it, I really love. This piece is Chris Malone. He is a sculptor out of Maryland. I really just love his imagination. He started off as a doll maker, so you'll see the glass eyes incorporated, but then you'll see these markings that feel almost like motherboard, but also a little bit tribal. There's a culture in Africa that nails pieces into the sculptures. This one looks more like screws, but I love how he ceramic it all, like the screws, the horns. And as we move up, there's a painting I actually found on Etsy, which is one of my favorite paintings. It just reminds me of when you're a kid and you go under the bed, play with your siblings or your cousins, and you're like, I'm this character, you're that character. So it really just brings me back to the childlike imagination. Above it is a piece by Brendan Reese out of Brazil. It's the birth of the universe. This woman's blood life force is bringing all of these imaginations into reality. And I really like how these markings in the painting also play along well with the sculpture now. And above it, at the very, very top, we have an angel sculpture by Pierre Santos out of London. And it's ceramic, gemstones, found objects. So I really like the idea of like the woman birthing the universe, but also the angel kind of looking over the whole astral scene. We're gonna make our way across. Again, clothing is displayed as artwork in some of the spaces, and this is a 1920s burlesque robe. It felt very Gucci era Alessandro Michele. Yeah, so it's just there to kind of like liven it up. So I have about 4 of these little dolls. These are handcrafted by an artist named Benito El Salvador. He's actually a nomad, so it's kind of like you gotta catch him when you catch him. I found him in New York. He set up in Union Square, and he was selling these. At first I was like unsure about them, so I bought a very tiny one. Then years later, I really came to appreciate his artistry and his way of life. He stitched the eyes, the teeth. This one says, "Let your intuition be your guide." And he even stitched his signature in the back. They hang out with this cat, which was a gift from one of my models. And this reminds me of Tim Burton characters, just mischievous. So probably the first thing you notice when you walk into this room is this giant giraffe. I found it off of OfferUp. Funny story is they met me in front of a Mexican restaurant. I had this in the back of the truck and we did the exchange. People were just very confused of what was going on. I believe it's Indian from the different textile and fabric, but I just thought it made no sense, so it's perfect for this room. I also like how now the blues and purples and also the shiny elements of the room start to work well with this giraffe. Behind it is a piece I found in South Africa, but I would like to believe it's West African. Came from a store on the port, and she just seems like a sea maiden for the mast of a ship. And because the hands were out and extended, I just felt that she was right to come home with me. I'm in between 2 of the star pieces of this room. On this end, we have Tim Short. This is called Ancestral Embrace. So the woman in this she's meditating and she's tapping into her ancestral line, the matriarchs of her family. So these are all the women that have passed before her in her family line, and then she's just going into that space where she can commune with them. And on this side, we have Jasmine Best. This is called Jack and the Devil's Daughter. And this is based on a Southern folk tale that Jack falls in love with the Devil's Daughter. And it's a mixed media piece through and through, feathers, wool, stitching, everything. So Jasmine Best is based in Georgia as well as Tim. They both have fire in it. So there's some fire surrounding this room. Even though fire, I have post-traumatic stress disorder from a disaster when I was young with fire, but I feel like it's still beautiful and it's represented in all forms throughout this space. I actually don't have a favorite part of the home. I do a lot of my nighttime reading, looking through art books in the living room, but I don't have a favorite part. When I wake up in the morning, I see this 18th century Moor statue, and it's just, I'm always in a sense of appreciation here because of the things that I've been able to acquire and bring into the home and what it reminds me of the experiences. Sometimes the experience of even shipping something is something that is, I guess, story worthwhile. The best compliment that I have gotten from my home, because I used to do art tours through the home, is that this is the best museum I've ever been to. Or it could feel like an insult to some, but if someone says this is intense stimulation, overstimulate, it's for me to always not be bored. So for someone that's just coming from the first time, it's gonna be like, wow, this is I don't know where to look. So I do enjoy that it's not one piece that hogs attention from the rest of the room. Everything kind of coexists and works together and flows naturally. And now come with me down to my den. Welcome to my den. So the theme here is more medieval Gothic. So you'll see some religious elements. You'll see a lot of dark tones, but even in some of these frames, you'll see more of a Gothic feel to it. So we'll start here. One, we have this floor lamp, which I also found on OfferUp. And just to bring along that feel, the necklace it's wearing, which is a crucifix, it was actually personalized by a North African from the Atlas Mountains. Above this, we have a piece by Kamika Patton. She is a mixed media artist. She draws, but then she incorporates her drawings into these magical, just collages almost. So this is called Channels of Communication. This is a woman in a spiritual sense and in a West African traditional spiritual sense, communicating with the earth as well as communicating with the heavens. So you'll see these pearls incorporated. You'll see what appears to be leaves sprouting up, but also raindrops in red. And you'll see the different candles around. So I really enjoy the use of the different paper and textures within this piece. We're gonna move along to my couch, which I also got secondhand, but above it, we have a piece by Ande Magoso. He's out of South Africa. This is called Alpha and Omega. So this is his rendering of what it felt like to be between two tribes. His dad is Zulu and his mother is Xhosa, which may be odd for traditional sense when it comes to South Africa. So he made his dad the goat, his mom the sheep, because that's traditionally what they would use in their spiritual practices for their community. I love that he made himself a bit of a satyr, minotaur, mythical creature, and I really love the flow of the clouds. And I double framed it at Michael's, but the outer frame, I really wanted to feel very Gothic. The birds you might have heard earlier, but I have 3 birds, so they're quite noisy and messy. But this piece is by Frank Zarate. It's called Bison Mask, and I actually had a pet bull at 2 years ago, a Scottish Highland bull. So I felt like he made this piece for me. He didn't, but I felt connected to it, so I bought it, and the clothing is made of a conversation between these two. So it's in Portuguese, but it cannot be deciphered even if I could speak Portuguese. It's just meant to be that moment between those two people. And right here we have a piece by Andre Ford. It's called Aguanile, and it's based on Cuban and Latin American religious tradition. He relates religion and the practice of religion almost like a therapy, as if art is helping him work through those things as well. So he found a way to dramatically and impressively render this, and I thought it'd be perfect to kind of be in front of this armoire. And on this mantle, we just have different pieces of culture, mostly African actually. We have another Shona stone sculpture. This is in Verdite. We have these little Twa people. They're from Cameroon and they're actually pygmies. This piece is a piece that I've brought on this year, but I'm most proud of. It's an antique São Benedito. So the patron saint of Brazil is São Benedito. So you'll see that, if anything. It was very much a quest to find one, and this is an old one. I left all the dust on them, found them my last day in Brazil, and I really just love how they incorporate the rosary, the sheen of the face versus the lighter brown eyes. I really enjoy this piece. And then we have a piece from an Atlanta-based artist named Lordea, and this one's called Altar of Forgiveness. So my coffee table opposite of my couch really contains a lot of the books that I learn about the African societies and civilizations and tribes. A lot of books stacked up, but I have books all throughout the home. And then opposite of them are different masks from tribes. So this is Kakunga, this is from Congo, this is Yombe from Congo, this is the Tikar people from Cameroon. So this is actually bronze, all bronze, and this is from the Kuba people of Congo. This piece I found in an antique mall in Augusta, Georgia, or North Augusta, South Carolina. I'm from North Augusta. And this is iron, and it's supposed to hold candles, but I just wanted it as a decorative. I have put electric tea light candles in this before. And yeah, I just wanted it to kind of ground this idea that we're in some drab castle of some sort in an era that obviously don't belong to. But some things are just to set the scene. So this couch, which I thrifted, I have these accent pillows that I actually got from Hobby Lobby ages ago. It was my senior year of college. I just wanted them to set a scene for a specific fashion show. It actually might have been earlier than my senior year of college. They just been at my parents' house until I was ready to have something, and I thought they worked perfect. Opposite sides of this. I love the tassels on them. By the way, the coffee table I took from my parents' house. I went there and I was like, I hope you know this is coming home with me. And we traded. They could have my ottoman, but I'm taking the table. Home means to me something that you can feel relaxed and escape the everyday life, or if your life is adventurous and you want to continue living in that moment, you have it here. For example, I don't even have a TV. I do watch on my computer, but my home is interesting enough sometimes that I'm just enjoying the moment. And home to me means that you're very appreciative, you're very grounded when you are home. Thank you, Homeworthy, for joining me in my home, but now I have to get back to work. Bye.
Thanks for watching. Go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content and shopping guides.